A very good morning, a very good morning to all of you. This is Dr. Kaustubh Bondre, and we are looking at today's The Hindu to understand what is important in today's newspaper from the point of view of UPSC examination. The first issue that we see on page number 1 is Kaveri. It is related to Kaveri River. It is a dispute, a long-standing dispute between the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, majorly. Otherwise, this dispute also includes the state of Kerala and Pondicherry, the Union Territory. Now here, what is the current context? See, in such a news, you need to understand the evolution of this issue as well as what is the present uh, precipitating factor that has brought this issue back into the news. Now, this factor is mentioned here. On April 9, Supreme Court directed Center to frame the draft Kaveri scheme by May 3 and prove its bona fide resolve to end the 200-year-old dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Now, already there has been a tribunal on this issue, and the tribunal had given its judgment. However, in every season when there is drought, the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu fight over water. Now, this news is a classic example where we can understand that what is given in the news needs to be critically thought, and then we have to look beyond what is not what is given and understand what is not given in the news. For example, here look at the stand that center has taken. Because of the elections, the prime minister and ministers are all in Karnataka, so they want uh, the center they want to delay the time when center records its opinion on this dispute in the Supreme Court. Now you should understand it's a Karnataka is a poll bound state. That is the reason why the uh, center wants to postpone expressing its stand, because if it does before the elections, it can have an impact, political impact, on the result of the election. Now this is the simple understanding that the stand taken by center, unfortunately here, is very very political, and somehow the human rights issue, right? So the court clearly is saying that the scheme should have not should have been finalized by now, but then this human rights have taken a back seat, and the center is looking at the uh, elections around the corner. Now, the second news, which is important here, is this 100 killed in dust storm in UP Rajasthan. Here, the this news is not straightforward important. We have to look at the key things, the dust storms. So we need to understand that this is a season which is pre-monsoon period. During summer, because of intense heating of the peninsular India, uh, air becomes warm and it rises vertically upwards, resulting into the formation of low pressure belt. Now this localized low pressure centers can develop into cyclonic circulation, resulting into uh, formation of storms which wreak havoc in various part of the country, right? So try to understand the geography behind this. The next news is about the scheduled caste and the atrocities act, right? Now, understand this issue. This Atrocities Act has been in controversy. It is an act to protect the SC/ST community members from discrimination and violence from the other castes, so-called upper castes. What has happened is there has been a demand that this act is being misused because it is very very stringent, which demands immediate arrest, and there is no bail if there is a complaint made against a particular person in the police station under this act. So, uh, on March 20, Supreme Court has had given a judgment where the court had said that it is not uh, necessary to outrightly arrest a person and punish, right? And the court said that there should be a preliminary inquiry that should be conducted before arrest. Now, the problem is, on the face of it, it looks okay, right? The judgment looks okay, that the court is trying to prevent the misuse of this act. However, you look at the practicality, you will understand in the field already there is a bias in the entire system. And don't take me otherwise, but if a SC/ST person goes to the police station to register a case, the probability of the case being registered is low. In this case, already the conviction rate is extremely low in under this act. So the problem is, this judgment may open a Pandora's box where, in the name of conducting preliminary inquiry, FIRs would not be registered, and it would lead to decrease in the conviction rate, which is already very low. So somehow this judgment had gone against the interest of protect justice for this SC/ST community. The act, on the other hand, forbids anticipatory bail to accused persons and prescribes immediate arrest. This is the original nature of act. Now, this judgment of Supreme Court also raises a question, a troubling question, on the role of Supreme Court in interpreting the act which has already been passed by the Parliament. So either the court should have gone for judicial review in interpretation, and then they should have struck down any provision, for example, this one of that act, as contrary to the constitution, but that has not been done. So this act and this particular provision is accepted by the court initially. So now the court is just interpreting it in a different manner, which is not legal. Somehow it oversteps the mandate of the courts. So this can be a classical case of judicial overreach or judicial activism. Now after this, we move to page number 2. Here the news is about campus violence. We are not interested in a specific incident, but overall throughout the country it has been observed that campuses have become platforms where political parties play their dirty games, and the students get influenced and get into violent mode. Now the trigger point is mentioned in this paragraph. It was on the portrait of Jinnah. My point is, how is this news important for UPSC? You should be able to answer for mains that whether we should allow political activity in the universities. And for this, you need to go to J.M. Lingdo committee report, which was given in 2005 on the political participation by students in universities. Right. So this is the point that needs to be understood in this article. Next, we move to page number 5. Right. On this page, the most important point, the first news that is important is about the murder of Latvian woman. Now, again, the news as such is not important. What is important is the issue behind this news. We know that tourism is one of the sectors which can generate employment on a large scale in the country. It can employ not only highly skilled people, but right from an totally unskilled to highly skilled. All the sections of society, including women, can get good employment if tourism develops in a particular region. However, tourism in our country, especially foreign tourists coming to the country, are repeatedly facing harassment and violence and abuse, especially when it comes to women. Now this goes against the tenets of Atiti Devo Bhava, or what the government is trying to do in terms of Incredible India. So we, by not protecting foreign tourists, are giving out a very wrong message to the society, to the world, and it is also hurting economically in terms of reduction in remittance, reduction in the foreign exchange that we can earn out of tourism. Next, we move to page number 6. Here, the first news that is important, it's about temple entry for SC/ST people in a temple in Orissa, the Jagannath temple. Now the decision has not been taken, but then if you have read Indian history, you will understand that the temple entry movement has roots in the freedom struggle also. So we can see here that though politically the constitution gives equality, Article 21 gives right to life with dignity, somehow discrimination still exists, especially when it comes to religion. So this is an important issue, which is a social issue. Right. Next, it's about animal adoption scheme. This is a very good initiative. This was a very good initiative taken by the Alipur Zoo. However, you need to study why it has not succeeded and what else can be done so that the animals which are present in the zoo can get better treatment, and also connect. You need some steps to connect the citizens with these animals so that the value of biodiversity and a ethic of conservation is nurtured in the society. Now, after this, we move to page number 8. It's an editorial page. Now, the first news is the same issue that we were discussing now. It is about the SC/ST Act, right? The SC/ST Act. Now, look at the writer, G. Sampath. If you observe his writing throughout, uh, this particular writer writes critically against the government. I have nothing against this writer, but the trend is he generally criticizes the government in his articles. Do not pick up the journalistic language because that can boomerang or hurt your own marks in the exam. But then what is good in his articles? You can pick up points because he criticizes government or whatever is happening in the society, especially from the point of view of the government. You can get very valid critical points about any issue that is in current affairs, especially which relates to the state. So let us see what he has given about this act. This article is very educative, though. The first one, the March 20 order, we have spoken about this. Second, three demands of the community. You have to go through this. Next, the case. UPSC many times asks you a question directly related to various cases which have resulted into a lot of discussion or debate throughout the country. So the trigger point was Subhash Kashinath Mahajan versus the state of Maharashtra. Next, the most disturbing aspect of court's order is the idea that poor conviction rates and high acquittal rates suggest a high number of false cases. No, it can be other way around. This can also reflect the bias that is present, and that is what the writer is trying to highlight, that low conviction or poor conviction rates and high acquittal may be symptomatic of the bias that is already present in the establishment against the SCs and STs. Now, if you dilute the act further, it is going to further reduce the conviction rate. Clear? We move to the next article. This is into the brave new age of irrationality. Now, you are very well aware that the constitution makers of the makers of the constitution, the Constituent Assembly, and especially Jawaharlal Nehru, had included the word scientific temper in the constitution, fundamental duties. Right? There are other words like say, this scientific temper, spirit of inquiry and reform. They find place in the constitution. However, if you observe what is going around, this is a very nice article which highlights the present culture where irrationality is being encouraged and scientific temper or the spirit of inquiry is suppressed in the citizens. Right? Now, why any government would do that? See, this is not against a particular party or government, but you need to understand that it has this assault on rationality has a political connotation. Why? The reason is when there is scientific temper, when the people are rational, they are bound to ask questions. They are bound to process everything that they see objectively and then give their opinion or even disagree. The point is, this is problematic for our political culture because the people in power do not like to be questioned. There is a unilateral communication with the citizens, and in this case, it works for them if people are irrational. So you highlight the ancient past, you highlight a grandiose vision of the country, and then somehow you create situations where the citizens worship their past, worship the political leaders, establishment, and do not critically analyze the steps or actions or the words of this political class. Now, this unscientific society makes the job of an incompetent ruler a lot easier, right? Cultivation of scientific temper involves asking questions and demanding empirical evidence. It has no place for blind faith. So these are two antithetical, very opposite antagonistic points. A truly rational community often questions disparity, exploitation, persecution on basis of caste, religion, gender. Right? It demands answers and accountability for violations. Now, this is something that the political class is never going to like. The indoctrination against scientific temper begins very early in our lives. Now, the writer is also highlighting the significance of the process of socialization, and the agents of socialization majorly are parents, family, neighborhood, relatives. It is media, it is school, they are friends. So in a very young age, the Indian society somehow makes children obedient so that they do not question authority, and the culture of asking questions is suppressed. Next, he has mentioned certain key points, that the string theory, God particles, cyclotron, quantum mechanics. Now, this is what the world is dealing with, and we are dealing with statements from our politicians saying that internet was existent during Mahabharata, or giving statements which are totally irrational in the present context, right? Next, we move to Israel's revelations about the Iran nuclear issue. The point is, as discussed earlier in the previous papers, I would highlight in short that Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, is a hawkish leader who does not want to see the Iran nuclear deal succeed. He has support from irrational head like Donald Trump of United States of America, and that jeopardizes all the efforts made by a very sensible statesman, Barack Obama, to strike a deal with Iran which postpones Iran's acquirement of nuclear weapons for at least 10 years, and also establishes peace in the region of West Asia, which already is burning because of the Syrian issue. So the plan is Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. It was an international agreement signed between Iran and the 5 permanent members of UN Security Council and Germany. Now this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action is very crucial. It is one of the most successful examples how the most critical problems can be solved with the help of dialogue. Now, you need to understand this agency, International Atomic Energy Agency. You have to prepare about this also. So this is all about this page. Now, what we discuss is the yes, no uncomplicated column. Uh, for all you aspirants, I would like to advise that you should read this very nicely, because on the same issue you read different viewpoints, right? And then you understand that no matter how convincing a particular writer has written, you need to have your own point of view. So for opinion building and critical thinking, this column, yes, no, complicated, or right, left, center, is really helpful. Now coming to the issue, it's about again the controversy over the elevation of Justice Joseph. We'll not go into the particular case, but what is the takeaway from all these three articles? One, Granville Austin. When you study polity, especially Lakshmikant, you will find this name. This person, whatever he has said, you need to prepare nicely. So he's a scholar of Indian Constitution, right? Second, judiciary. I must highlight that. See, the root of this controversy is about appointment of judges to Supreme Court. Now, I would like to point out that Constitution gives an authority to the executive to appoint judges in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. It nowhere mentions that Chief Justice of India has the upper hand or primacy in the appointment process. Now it is interpretative gymnastics, right? That the meaning is that Supreme Court, through first, second, third judges case, they invented terms like collegium, and then they reinterpreted consultation as concurrence, and through this they tried to bring in the concept of primacy of judiciary in the appointment of judges. Now this was done by the court, saying that primacy of judiciary in appointment is necessary to safeguard the independence of the judiciary. Now this is true that if executive is given complete power over the appointment of judges, the appointments may become political, or may become politically colored, which endangers the not only the institution of judiciary, its autonomy, but also the rights of citizens, because it is the court which protects ultimately. Article 32, right, protects the rights of fundamental rights of citizens. Now the point is, there is a system, or there is supposed to be a system of checks and balances between the two pillars of judiciary and executive or legislature. What we see here is judiciary has usurped all the power. Nowhere in the world judges appoint judges. So definitely this has to go. You cannot completely give the entire power in the hands of executive also. That's going to create problem. That is the reason why the constitution gave out a system where executive appoints, because they're politically the executive is politically accountable to the people, so they should have that power of appointing judges. However, it has to be done in consultation with Chief Justice, so that the opinion of judiciary also has weightage. That is the reason why this you need to study this first and second and third judges cases. uh, you need to prepare the issue of NJC also, right? NJC, this was in news, so why it was rejected, what was the problems, you just go through that. Then uh, now what has been highlighted by the writer is representation of oppressed communities on the bench. So there is a need to increase the strength of the judges. Second, there is also a need to make the benches more representative of various communities, so that justice can be done. Next, we come to the second point of view. Here, the limited grounds on which the nomination may be returned are given. So you need to prepare this A, B, C, and D. Just go through that. You will be in a better position to understand the present case. Now, again, about critical thinking. This particular writer says that this is an attempt at naked usurpation of power by the union government, undermines the independence of judiciary. This is wrong, right? I mean, somehow you have to have this critical thinking to understand that this is the opinion of a particular writer, but may not this not always correct, right? Because now what he says, if you trust it, you will come back to the position where you will try to bring primacy of judiciary, and you will associate this with independence. But independence of judiciary necessarily does not mean that in the appointment judiciary should have primacy. Clear? Next, these are the ills that plague the system of judiciary presently. Demands of accountability and transparency. This is true because it is rightly said that Caesar's wife should always be above suspicion. So the point is, people trust you. You are the ultimate safeguarder of the rights of the people, fundamental rights of the people. So as an institution, Supreme Court and entire judiciary for that matter should be accountable and transparent. Clear? Next, we come to the third article, which tries to balance the two sides. Here, uh, the two judges' cases held that the Constitution requires primacy of judiciary represented by collegium. Right now, this is what I was trying to say. Right, this is somehow not given in the Constitution. Now, the ground is given why government is behaving or rejecting the elevation of Justice Joseph. You can go through this. This also says that bad faith and partisan motives behind the government's move. So, rightfully, we need a system of checks and balances. Now we come to the CPEC. Now this is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a part of OBOR, that is One Belt, One Road Initiative of China, or it is also called the Belt and Road Initiative. To cut the long story short, China is building up this project so that it can use the excess dollars that it has, and it can secure markets for its goods. The point is, the CPEC corridor passes through POK, which India considers illegally occupied territory by Pakistan. That is the reason why India has made its principal objection very clear to China, and it is the so-called CPEC violates India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. No country can accept a project that ignores its core concerns on sovereignty and territorial integrity. So this is the official stand taken by India. You need to really be prepared with it. Next, it is the news about or article about Judges Inquiry Act, right? Recently there was an attempt to impeach the Chief Justice of India, so this process of impeachment you have to prepare from polity books. This act is also crucial. The questions in mains can come on this act, right? And especially section is given here, you just go through that. Next thing that is important on this page is data. This is spending on military muscle. Relative position is given here. This is given by CIPRI. This organization or NGO is also crucial for your preparation. On the 10th page, we come to a news which is about the newly formed Defense Planning Committee. So question in prelims may come from this and also in mains. So this is a new arrangement. So who are the members, who heads this committee, who this committee comes under whom does this committee report? All these you need to be prepared with. So it's given what are the functions of this committee, right? What are the subcommittees under this committee? So you prepare this article nicely as I have highlighted here. Apart from this, while discussing this SCST Act ruling, I mentioned the term judicial activism. So go back and study the terms called judicial activism, judicial overreach, and what has been the evolution of this issue, which is connected to the issue of PIL, public interest litigations, right? So uh, prepare this very nicely in mains, especially this issue is important. On page number 11, we come to uh, the issue about Kaveri River, right? So now this article is not very important. What is important here, I've highlighted. It's about origin in Kodagu district. It's Tala Kaveri. It is given here. Tala Kaveri in Kodagu district of Karnataka, right? Next, what are the reasons why the water in Kaveri is decreasing, right? These are highlighted here. Next, this is a very nice case study which says that the cultivation of rice used to preserve water along the course. What has happened is, because the farmers have shifted on to commercial cropping, or rather cash crops, they have stopped cultivating paddy. The area under paddy is decreasing, and that is correlated with present decline in water availability in the basin of Kaveri, right? The suggestions are given here. We can go through this, right? And you are aware that in this case, in such a case, you need people's cooperation if you really have to solve this problem. Next, we move to page number 12. On page number 12, first, this is a small bit. Guantanamo Bay, we need to understand that this is the secret detention facility which was in news after 9/11. This is US maintained facility which is considered illegal even by US standards, and that is located in the island of Cuba, right? The northern tip. I'm sorry, not the northern tip, on the island of Cuba, on one of the tips of that island, right? uh, Next, this news is about what is happening in UK. I mean, the investigation is going on regarding the role of Facebook, the data breach, and the role of Cambridge Analytica. The scandal involves hacking and misuse of data of Facebook users in a large proportion. So, allegations that Facebook profiles of millions of Americans had been wrongly harvested and used by the company called Cambridge Analytica, and they also played a role in elections to US. So, this is an important issue. This is very crucial to the issue of privacy. Next, we come to Kim Jong Un, the leader of North Korea, and the role of China. Now, this article is not very important, but just understand that Kim is protected by China. China sees Kim as an insurance against US, Japan, and for that matter, South Korea. Because Korea, Japan, Korea and Japan both are under the nuclear umbrella of United States of America, and they allow US to intervene into Asia Pacific. So China sees North Korea and its protection essential to its own strategic interests. Now, after this, military, right? Again, the statistics are given here. You can go through this statistics, right? Next, we come to South China Sea. This is a very important news regarding Spratly Islands. South China Sea is a marginal water body in Asia Pacific region, which is claimed as internal water. I mean, China says that it is completely Chinese, the South China Sea. There are competing claims by Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, number of even Japan, the number of small islands that are present in the Indo-China Peninsula and the vicinity. The most disputed islands are Spratly and Paracel Group. China, the news is about China has installed anti-ship cruise missiles here on Spratly Island and air-to-air missile systems. So this is the classic Beijing strategy or Chinese strategy of constructing increasing habitation of people on disputed territories and then claiming the territory as their. That is what China tried to do with India in Doklam in very recent past. Right, now we come to page number 13. It's economic related news. Uh, we need to be well conversant with the term called buyback of shares. See, this is simple that every company which is listed on stock exchanges has certain amount of its market capitalization or certain amount of its ownership in the form of shares. It is given in stocks to people or shares to people. This is called the market capitalization of any company. Many times companies buy back their own shares. They do so when they see that the share is not getting adequate price. Second, when it is optimistic about its growth in future. And third, it wants to increase the profit to each shareholder and reduce the number of shareholders so that the cost of servicing the shareholders goes down. right? So I've explained in short the process of buyback. Now the next article here, I'm not interested in the news. What we are interested in the keywords, right? So as institutions, you have to prepare the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. You have to prepare the new development bank which comes under BRICS. You have to prepare the Asian Development Bank, the differences between them, how are they same or different from the IMF or World Bank, right? So all this is important for your preparation. Again, the term like FPI, foreign portfolio investors, right? So next we come to Krishi Kalyan says, so this page gave us a lot of keywords, right? After this page, we move on to page number 16. Uh, Nothing more important here. Just I wanted to point out that there is a column called faith here. So I've not read this, but I'm telling you that those of you who are a bit religious bent and take things philosophically, you should read these columns, right? So moving further, page number 18. Now here, sonar, a keyword, sound navigation and ranging. So associated words like lidar, sonar, all these technologies will be helpful to you in answer questions relating to science and technology section. Next important thing is Western Ghats. You need to prepared. You need to be prepared with the geography of the Western Ghats, the type of forests, the species that are predominantly found here, the ecological problems that this area is facing, right? And see, now also many species are being discovered every now and then, especially reptiles or amphibians like frogs. So you need to prepare Western Ghats. Report wise, you can go through the Madhav Gadgil committee report and Kasturi Rangan report on Western Ghats. Next, International Space Station, Science and Technology. So be prepared with this organization. With this, we finish today's Hindu. You will realize that newspaper reading is extremely crucial. Making notes is extremely crucial, but it is very important to be very pointed, specific while reading newspapers. And newspaper reading actually becomes a joy when you read it in the right sense. As you have seen, we have covered the most important points that were needed in today's newspaper. And this today's newspaper, after reading this in this manner, you can be very well sure that you have covered today's newspaper completely. Whatever was important in today's newspaper. So this is Dr. Kaustubh Bondre, and I promise you that I'll be with you throughout your preparation. And if you like this video, do review us and give your ratings, right? Spread this video so that others who are preparing like you also benefit from the discussion that we had now. Thank you and have a very nice day.